Good morning and welcome to the Point. This week here in Detroit, the Republicans had another big debate. But before that, the candidates were fanning out all over the state. This morning, we'll give you a sense of what's taken place over the past few days and look ahead to tonight's debate in Flint. First up, Marco Rubio, the senator from Florida, was in Michigan, and he had Donald Trump directly in his sights.
The conservative movement is at its best when it appeals to people's hopes and their dreams. When we acknowledge our struggles and our challenges, look, this is a tough time. You're living it in your life. You know that the changes in our economy for working class Americans have been very hard. The jobs that used to sustain our working class, some of these jobs are being replaced by machines or being sent to other countries, so they just don't pay enough anymore. Times are difficult. We have to acknowledge that reality, but we should not take advantage of that reality. And we are at our best when we appeal to people's hopes and dreams, when we acknowledge that times are tough, but we offer a way forward about how times are going to be better. We are at our worst when we appeal to those fears and to anger and to frustration as the base of our movement. There has never been in the history of the world a great movement built upon anger and frustration. There has never been one. Anytime. Should we allow it to motivate us? Yes. Should we allow it to define us? Absolutely not. And so one of the things I pointed out in the last debate, and will continue to do, is that today, although it's a very unusual front runner in Donald Trump, because usually when you're the front runner, everyone is saying, please, everyone get out of the race so we can unify around the front runner. What people are saying now is, please, everyone get together so we can keep this front runner from winning and destroying the Republican Party. And why do people say that about him? Is it because, I'll tell you why. Number one, he's never voted in a Republican primary in his life. Number two, to the extent we knows where he stands on the issues, they sound a lot like Hillary Clinton. He spent a valuable amount of debate time last week defending Planned Parenthood. He says that when it comes to Israel, he's not taking sides. He agrees with government-sponsored health care, not unlike what Obamacare is like, on issue after issue. Now he says he wants to change the First Amendment to make it easier to sue people that say mean things about him. I don't think there are enough lawyers in the world or judges to hear those cases.
That same day, Democrat Bernie Sanders was in Michigan. In fact, he's been barnstorming the state with a number of stops, including this big rally on Friday night at Grand Valley State University. Saturday morning, he sat down with us to talk about the state of the race. Senator, you have struck a real chord with people in this country, drawing huge crowds, I don't need to tell you, and getting a lot of conversation going. One of the things you've talked about in your commercial that's running here in Michigan is you talk about working, having a career, and then at the end of that career, having time to spend time with grandchildren and rest. I ask you about that because you've talked about expanding Social Security.
Yes.
What does that mean? What does that expansion look like?
Here's what it means. Right now, Rick, in Michigan, Vermont, throughout this country, we have millions of people who are trying to get by on $11,000, $12,000 a year. These are disabled veterans. These are elderly people. You know what? You can't get by on $11,000, $12,000 a year and buy the prescription drugs and the health care and the food that you need. I believe that we should expand Social Security benefits by lifting the cap on taxable income. Somebody makes $118,000, somebody makes $5 million. They both contribute the same amount to Social Security. So if you start at literally $250,000, top 1.5%, we can significantly expand Social Security benefits and extend the life of Social Security for over 50 years. Now, my Republican colleagues want to cut Social Security. Frankly, I think that's crazy. So our view is lift the cap, expand Social Security benefits.
When it comes to a living wage, what does that look like? Because it probably is different from state to state, right?
To some degree, yes. Yes. But at the end of the day, what we have right now are millions of Americans who are working 40, 50 hours a week. And at the end of the day, they're still not able to feed their families or live with any level of security. What I believe is we have to move toward a living wage, which over the next several years is $15 an hour. And the good news is we're seeing states and cities all over this country, Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Oregon, beginning to move in that direction. That's what I believe. Look, at the end of the day, if you work 40 hours a week in America, you should not be living in poverty.
When that happens in places like Seattle, San Francisco, some of those places, is there any evidence that it squeezes people out of the workforce as the opponents have said that it would, or that it drives up the cost of the goods and services?
Well, you know, that's a very good question. And some of the more conservative economists will make that claim. But you're seeing more and more cities moving in that direction. Now, I can't tell you that if the minimum wage went up at McDonald's, that the cost of your hamburger may not go up by 10 cents or whatever. But from an economic perspective, when we put disposable income into the hands of people who have nothing right now, and they now have a few bucks to spend, you know what? They're going to go out and they're going to buy a product here and they're going to buy a service over there and they're going to create jobs. Our goal is to put money into the hands of working people who today don't have it, rather than in billionaires. And that's what our economic principle is about.
I want to call your attention to a local issue that you're very well aware of, but it has national implications, and that is the infrastructure in Flint. You've called for the resignation of Governor Snyder, but you've also called for a huge investment. I was there with you in Flint when you talked about a big federal investment, not just for Flint, but for infrastructure all over.
Rick, I got to tell you something. As a senator, you meet with a lot of people and you hear a lot of distressing discussion. You know, people come to you with terrible tales. Honest to God, in many years of public life, I have never heard anything like what I heard when I sat down a few weeks ago quietly with a half a dozen people from Flint. The idea that in the year 2016, children in this country are being poisoned in the United States of America is unbelievable. It's literally unbelievable. What I have been saying from day one is it is not just Flint. All over this country, we are seeing our infrastructure collapse. That's water systems, wastewater plants. In my state, we have many bridges which are in desperate need of repair. Roads, our rail system is falling further behind. I believe that we have to make a significant investment in our crumbling infrastructure. And when we do that, by the way, $1 trillion investment over 5 years, we create 13 million decent paying jobs. We put people back to work. We deal with the problems of Flint and other cities and communities all over this country. I think that's exactly what we have to do.
Senator, I only got 30 seconds left, but I got to ask you this. You have been in public service for 30 years in that neighborhood?
Yeah.
What has been the most surprising thing to you in this run for president?
How quickly and with how much enthusiasm our ideas have caught on. When you go before, you go walking into an arena and you find 25,000 people there. You say, whoa, what's going on? But I think the message that we have a corrupt campaign finance system, that we have a rigged economy where almost all new income and wealth is going to the top 1%, the degree to which people have responded to that message, Rick, has really kind of blown me away.
Then on Thursday night, it was the main event for Republicans in Detroit. It was their big debate, and that's where everybody was trying to make a name for themselves. That was just part of what happened this week in politics around Michigan, perhaps the busiest ever week that we've seen. Coming up, more as we prepare for Decision 2016 and the Michigan primary. It's all next. To the Point. Welcome back to The Point. On Friday, it was the frontrunner's turn to hit Michigan, and first it was Hillary Clinton as she came to Detroit.
I deliberately chose to come to Detroit and to come to talk about jobs, because I want more people to see what's happening in Southwest Detroit and Midtown and Eastern Market. New businesses. Families are moving in. The street lights are, the buses are running. There is a palpable feeling of pride and community. And we have to spread the economic revitalization to all of Detroit's neighborhoods. And you can do it, because look how far you've come. Thanks to the auto industry just had its best year ever. Innovation is on the rise. Between the car makers and suppliers, the clean energy sector, the defense corridor, high-tech firms in Ann Arbor, cutting-edge design happening in Grand Rapids, the next generation of engineers getting trained up in Houghton, and so much else. Your hard work, doing what you've always done, making and designing things that America needs and the world wants, is once again going strong. And I am so grateful to everybody who played a part in that. Now, last night, Detroit played a different role, didn't it? Hosting the Republican presidential, I don't know what to call it, I guess debate. There were so many insults flying back and forth, it was hard to keep track. But the biggest insult of all was to the American people. The economy, which should be at the top of any list that anybody running for president has, was basically an afterthought. Maybe that's because all the Republican candidates support the same failed policies. Cut taxes for the rich, get out of the way of corporations, don't raise the minimum wage. In fact, the front runner says he thinks wages are too high in our country, and slash government to the bone. Now, no surprise, they've all criticized or opposed the auto rescue. What was missing last night is an honest reckoning with the most important economic challenge we face. How do we raise incomes and create the good jobs of the future? Now, on the Democratic side, we agree on a number of things. But I don't think we can answer that question by refighting battles from 20 years ago. Anyone running for president owes it to you to come up with real ideas, not an ideology, not an old set of talking points, but a credible strategy designed for the world we live in now. And that's exactly what I'm here today to do.
Donald Trump made 2 stops in the state, including one in Cadillac.
You know, in a certain way, I used to say it's the silent majority, but it's really not a silent majority anymore, you know? It's a very, very noisy majority. Very, very noisy. And, you know, the establishment people, the people that lost the last 2 elections, and frankly, it would have lost more than that. I mean, they are losing. They are losing a lot. But they have no clue. They have no clue. They don't know how to win. They don't know. I love you too, even though it's a guy. I love you too. I love you too. I love the people. I love my people. You know, we have every poll said that Trump has people. They won't leave him. It doesn't make any difference. They love him. And I'll tell you, I love you. And I mean that too. Loyalty. You know, some of these people have like a 10% loyalty, meaning if they sneeze in the wrong direction, they're gone. With me, I think I can do almost anything, and you're with me, right? We had a good debate last night. Last night was great. I enjoyed it. I thought it was going to be even tougher. It was pretty nasty, actually, but I thought it was even going to be tougher. You take a deep breath, you walk in, and then you go boom, boom, boom. But it was really interesting, and every one of the polls, every single one of them, Drudge and everyone. Drudge is an incredible guy, by the way. But Drudge and all of them, every single poll had me winning big leagues, so that's good. I like that. Don't we love to win? I love to win. You know, our country does not win anymore. You understand that. And we don't win with our military. It's depleted. We can't beat ISIS, okay? Can you believe this? You know, there was a time when we could beat Germany, we could beat Japan, we could beat anybody. Today we can't beat ISIS. Well, that'll change very quickly, I will tell you. It's going to change very quickly. That's going to change so quickly. We're going to win so much. So what I thought I'd do is talk a little bit about trade, because you don't like what's happening. You don't like to see what's happening with your manufacturing businesses in particular. And we're not going to let it happen anymore. We're not going to let it happen. We have trade imbalances that are so ridiculous with Japan and China and India, every place. I mean, it's not a question of a couple of places. China is the great abuser. You know, they're the best of all in terms of size, in terms of magnitude. We have rebuilt China. They have taken our jobs, they've taken our money, they've taken everything. And by the way, just so you understand, I have a great relationship with China. I just extended the lease on the largest bank in the world, the Chinese bank, 400 million customers. Think of that, 400, that's bigger than our country, okay? They're 400 million customers, and they're great, they're wonderful. I deal with I sell apartments to them for tens of millions of dollars. I got the Bank of America building in San Francisco and 1290 Avenue of the Americas, big chunks, and I own that. By the way, I own many big jobs, many big buildings all over the place. We're building all over the world. We have many jobs going on right now. We're signing new deals. Of course, a lot of those deals I'll just have to let my kids handle, I guess, if we win, right? Believe me. Because I will have absolutely no interest in those deals. I will only have interest in one thing, making America great again, much more important.
And finally, Republican Governor John Kasich from Ohio, who's spending most of the week prior to the primary in Michigan, made his appearance in Ottawa County. It was a big crowd in Holland, but before the governor of Ohio spoke with them, he sat down with us to talk about the race for president. Governor, as we sit down this morning, there are a lot of people saying that you were the guy on the stage last night that made sense, that wasn't in the fray, that stayed above it. In fact, at one point you made a conscious effort to say, I'm not going to take the bait, or I'm not going to go there, or something to that effect. So how do you feel about that this morning?
I feel good. I mean, I feel fine. I mean, it's just, I prefer to tell people what I'm for and what I've done, and that's just the way it goes. I mean, it's not complicated for me.
When you stand up on that stage now down to 4, knowing that in just over a week there's a big race in Ohio that you have said you will win, and if you do, that puts you in a pretty interesting situation from a delegate standpoint. What do you think that means for Michigan after a performance like last night?
Well, look, I mean, just getting my message out is what matters to me, and we're going to be very aggressive all across Michigan here. I'm even looking forward to heading up to the UP, where I've never been before, and I think it's really cool. And I love being in Michigan. The people are really nice, and I hope that last night people again got to see more of me. I mean, my problem in this election is the press gives me no coverage. Even in the debate last night, people were shouting my name because the commentators weren't coming to me. But we got enough time.
He talked about some of the things that he had done, like creating jobs. He said it was a reality, not a theory. Another area where you say it's not theoretical is balancing the budget. The last time it was done in this country, you were there doing it. So tell me what you do this time to balance the budget.
Deal. You just go and you look at every program and you figure out which ones you need, which ones you don't need, and which ones can be made better. I mean, innovation is a big part of this. But you can't play favorites. You're going to step on a lot of toes. But at the end, you're going to have every American family doing better as a result. That's exactly what happened when people like Pete Hoekstra and I were in Washington. We fought to balance the budget, not because we care about numbers, but because we care about people.
When you hear other candidates talking about the size of the military and they say it's going to be this size, this level, whatever, you also have more than little experience at the Pentagon.
Right.
What should we be doing, either size-wise or directionally, with our military?
Well, we have to rebuild it because it's fallen down. It's not as strong as it was. But we have to make sure that when we spend the money, it's actually fixing the programs, not going into the pocket of some defense contractor or let some bunch of bureaucrats waste money. So we have to make sure that as we rebuild it, and rebuild it for the 21st century threat, that we do it efficiently and effectively. The taxpayers don't want money being wasted in anything. Just because it has a nice title doesn't mean you can waste money. So you have to have somebody in the Department of Defense who's really committed to reform and in greater efficiency. You'll never be perfect over there. It's too big of a bureaucracy, but it can be made significantly better.
When you look at the continuing threat of terrorism around the globe, how do you, as President of the United States, combat that and at the same time convince the American people that you're on the right track? Because there are a lot of people in the country with a lot of different ideas that you're well aware of, but there's confusion and some fear, I think, because of terrorism.
Well, I think the most important thing is to convince the people in Europe that they better stand up and fight. I don't think you have to do a lot of convincing in the Middle East, because all those countries that are favorable towards us are all at risk. So we got to get the world to work together, and we have to destroy these radical groups. So we don't have to be a policeman of the world, but we have to destroy ISIS, which would be a very big blow to terrorism in the world. At the same time, working with the whole world to share intelligence so that we can disrupt these horrible plots that people have, not only against us but our friends, and stay calm and collected about it. This can be managed. It's a crazy time in the world today with people who view our way of life as something that they need to destroy. But we'll confront it. We can defeat it.
And finally, in the environment of this presidential election, there is a lot of tearing apart of different groups, people that are standing in this corner or in that corner, right, shouting loudly at the center, if you will. You made it a point last night to say not once, but a number of times that you would work together. You do this gesture where you talk about bringing Democrats and Republicans together, about bringing sides together. How do you make that message work when so many people seem to be attracted to the my way or the highway?
Well, look, I just did a focus group last night that will be on television, where we had 3 people who were called on who said they were Trump supporters going into the debate who are now Kasich supporters. So, just do your job. Don't worry about it. I mean, just don't worry. This is just, it's a campaign. I don't really get too worried about it. I've already achieved so much, and that doesn't mean that I'm not going to work like the Dickens to achieve the rest. But I'm very, very proud of what we've been able to do. And you know what? My 16-year-old daughters are proud of their father. And what could be better than that?
So Michigan's primary is just a couple of days away, but first, there's another big event. We'll talk about that when we come back to The Point. So we've seen the candidates who have been going all over Michigan with more intensity than we've ever seen before in the most unusual presidential race we've ever seen. But there's still more to come. Tonight, a big event in Flint. That's where the 2 Democratic candidates will face off. I'll be there for that coverage, and I hope you will join us tonight. And of course, every Sunday morning right here at 10 o'clock on Wood TV 8 for To The Point.